What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the June 18, 2022 edition of the SmackDown LowDown. Yes, and not really an all-new show, I'll get into that in a moment, but formerly known as Talking Smack. So here's what I think happened. First of all, this kind of came out of nowhere. I saw the show, and I saw the title was called SmackDown LowDown. If you type in Talking Smack on Peacock, the episodes are no longer being uploaded to that section of the site. It's a completely different section now, although the show is exactly the same. No Jackie Redmond this week, but Scott Stanford stood in for her, Matt Camp, the usual format, the usual interviews. Honestly, I kind of wish they changed the name a year ago when they went to doing the current format as opposed to what they used to do. But any remnants of the original Talking Smack from, 5 or 6 years ago are officially gone. And I don't think that was done on purpose as, we got to get rid of the history of Talking Smack. The reason as to why I think they did this is because I saw in a press release recently that on the upcoming A&E shows, like they have the biographies, they have another WWE Rival show coming up, and they're going to have a talk show after either the biography show or the Rival show or both called Smack Talk with Booker T hosting like an after show talking about what we just saw on the A&E shows. So when I saw that, I'm thinking, that's a little confusing because we already have Talking Smack, and granted, it's not the same show. I realize that. We're not morons. I can tell the difference. But to have 3 different shows called Raw Talk, Talking Smack, and Smack Talk seemed a little weird. I mean, they might even change Raw Talk, too, to have Smack Talk and Raw Talk when it's not the SmackDown show. This seems a little weird to me. So honestly, if anything, I would have changed Raw Talk, because that sounds a lot more like Smack Talk than Talking Smack does, but it's the exact same shit. I don't think they will change Raw Talk. I guess we'll find out on Monday. But technically, this was the official first episode of the SmackDown LowDown, which isn't like an awful name. I'm sure other people have used it before. It doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely as Talking Smack does, but it is what it is. I'm obviously still going to lump these into my Talking Smack reviews and call it that in the playlist and whatnot, but it's officially the SmackDown LowDown going forward. But like I mentioned, still the same show, hosted this week by Scott Stanford, Matt Camp, and their analyst was Jerry Lawler, unfortunately. To start off the episode, they recap the ending to SmackDown that saw Brock Lesnar return following Roman Reigns' win over Riddle. Setting up the SummerSlam main event last man standing between Brock and Roman for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. I am not a fan. I talked more about that in my SmackDown audio review from earlier on Saturday, so check that out when you get a chance. But from there, they run down the biggest headlines from SmackDown, including McIntyre and Sheamus being added to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match per Adam Pearce. So they replay that whole segment from earlier on in SmackDown. We hear backstage from Drew McIntyre with Caleb Braxton at SmackDown. McIntyre says that both he and Sheamus have tempers. Things worked out. And in being in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, he wants to accomplish his goal of what he set out to do a few weeks ago in winning the briefcase and challenging for the undisputed title at Clash of the Castle. So the funny thing now is that McIntyre already called his shot for that show like a week or two ago. I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2 weeks ago. But either way, he already called a shot at Roman at that pay-per-view. We already kind of assumed that was where they were going with this. But they probably said, fuck, Brock's getting the first shot. We kind of have to have it make sense. Drew's not automatically going to get a title shot on that show. So how is he going to earn that title shot? Well, let's maybe have him win Money in the Bank. I don't think he should. I don't think he will. But that's their, mindset. That's their logic in having him be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, I would assume. Lawler says that he loved the segment. Of course he did. His money's currently on Drew McIntyre. Matt Camp calls it a star-studded match so far between McIntyre being added, Sheamus, and Seth Rollins. 10 world titles between those men. I don't think Matt Camp mentioned that, but I was doing the math in my head. Sheamus is a 4-time world champion in WWE. Rollins also a 4-time world champion in WWE. And McIntyre is a 2-time WWE champion. So that's 10 world titles between those 3 men, which is crazy. Jerry Lawler says that Roman and Riddle was a David versus Goliath matchup, and it was unbelievable to see Brock back, which, I don't know about unbelievable, but it certainly was surprising, I will say that. From there, they recap the New Day versus Jinder Mahal and Shanky match. Who gives a fuck? They also recap Raquel Rodriguez versus Shayna Baszler, with Raquel advancing to the women's Money in the Bank ladder match with that win. Backstage, we hear from Raquel Rodriguez, who says that win means everything to her and she plans to make the most of this opportunity and that she's ready to prepare for everything, considering that both women from Raw and SmackDown will be in this matchup come Money in the Bank. They talk about how the women's Money in the Bank ladder matches has more fresh faces compared to the men's. So far, I think we have 4 women in that match. We have Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Raquel, and Lacey. Only Alexa Bliss of those 4 women has won gold on the main roster. Lacey Evans has never won gold at all. Raquel's a former tag team champion and an NXT women's champion in NXT, but not on the main roster yet. Liv Morgan hasn't won shit, which is stupid, but whatever. So that's 4 women right there. Next week, we're getting Shotzi and Aaliyah in a qualifying match, which I guess makes sense from a storyline standpoint. Aaliyah's probably going to win. Who cares? I'd rather have Shotzi win. She's not going to, but I'd rather have Shotzi win personally. But same thing. Neither of those women have won gold on the main roster as well. So definitely some more fresh faces in that match than there are for the men as of now. From there, they recap Happy Corbin versus Madcap Moss. Madcap Moss winning the last laugh match, hopefully putting an end to that rivalry once and for all. Madcap says backstage to Megan Morant that he was grateful for the opportunity that Happy Corbin gave him and whatnot, but he treated him like a clown. And he's not a clown, and in that match, he got the last laugh, and then he laughs and ends the interview. So pretty basic stuff from Madcap Moss. He's getting better on the mic, I will say that. He is very well spoken. I still find him to be incredibly generic personally, but I mean, it's much better than what he was doing as Madcap Moss with the previous gimmick. He's still got to change the fucking name, but it's a little better off than it was a few weeks ago. Anyway, so Lawler says that Corbin wasn't prepared and he was hoping that he would slam Pat McAfee's head into the table afterward in hopes that he could take his spot on commentary. Pat McAfee, that is, to which I say no thanks. He also says that Raquel Rodriguez was impressive and he thinks that she's going to do well in Money in the Bank and probably his current favorite to win the whole thing. But he also says that, he's a big Lacey Evans fan as well. He recalls the conversation that he had with her around the time that she debuted, I think in Nashville or Memphis or whatever, years ago, and he's been a fan of her ever since. So, to close out the show here, they promote 3 but 3 notable matches for SmackDown next week. We'll see if they stick to them. Nakamura and Sami Zayn in a men's Money in the Bank qualifying matchup. I would personally have Zayn win, but that's just me. Shotzi versus Aaliyah for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and Ricochet and Gunther, part 2, for the Intercontinental Championship, which should also be as fun as their original outing. So, solid. I almost said talking smack. It's gonna take me a while to kind of get used to calling it the SmackDown LowDown, but that's what it is now. Thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have a great one. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.